We're gonna now turn our attention to the other side of the building, which is quite similar to the front side. It's a little bit wider, so we can reuse some of these parts that we've already modeled and move them over to the other side. But before we do that, we're going to turn our attention to properly naming the objects that we've created so far. And we're also going to create a new collection, ground floor, and move all the objects in that collection. So we could call this wall and columns. Then we could window, sill, we name this one threshold, we name this one door, this one window above door, small upper windows, main window frame. It's important to be descriptive, so it's easier for yourself and also for people that look at your model at some point in the future to kind of find these parts and what they actually are. What parts do we actually need? So I already said that we have to recreate this part, so actually we're gonna also have to recreate parts of this window, but we can still copy it over. We select this one, we also select this one, and that's it. So we turn on the source material, go in top orthographic view, turn on X-ray, make this a bit smaller, and then go to objects, duplicate objects, and then rotate them. Make sure you're in global at this point. And I want to rotate them exactly minus 90 degrees. Then the move tool to move it roughly in position. So actually we don't need this part. We're gonna model this doorway separately. So we're just gonna look at this column over here. We're going to go into edit mode. And we're gonna turn off for now this one and also this one, so I can just look at the plan. First we're gonna delete the part that we don't need, so that is this over here. I hit X and I will delete the faces. Okay, as you can see now there's a gap here. I have to reconstruct that. That's very easy to quickly reconstruct. I select this edge and that edge and I hit F, and then we have to move this column and increase the length of this wall. So we can select all of these together and then go tap in edit mode, turn on X-ray, and then make sure you select all the faces, and I'm also turning off the edge length display here. So we have all the faces that belong to the sides that we want to move selected, and then we can move them as one. Go into top view. Yeah, it's approximately here. The horizontal and vertical beams basically have to go. I will select this. And what I've actually done is selected all these vertices, again with vertex select mode on, and then I hit X on the keyboard and delete all the vertices. So as you can see, it removes these entire horizontal elements. I have to rebuild them now. So I could select this. Okay, I have to be precise here. This one, and then right mouse button, bridge edge loops. Do the same here. Deselect. First deselect the others. And bridge edge loops. And the next thing is to create these subdivisions. Now we have to create space for 4 different window frames. So I will use the loop cut tool again over here. So 3 cuts, 3 cuts. Select this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Okay, and then we use the bevel tool again on these edges. Yeah, it would be ideal to have them the same width as these over here that we've modeled before for consistency's sake. Yeah, I didn't note down how much I beveled these, but of course I can measure this. 0.037, we rounded to 377. Alright, we just need to undo this original bevel. Do it again. And now it's not a matter of simply adding this number here, because the width type is set to offset. And with offset it means it goes in, this is the distance, it goes in both directions. So 0.0377 in that, and in that direction from this central edge. What we want is the width of the actual bevel, the total absolute width. So that is 0.0377, and we will use the bridge faces again. Bridge faces. Bridge faces. Okay, of course we run into the same problem as we had with the front side, that the distances won't be equal, that these ones in the middle will be a little bit less wide than the ones on the side because of the space that is taken up by these vertical elements. So we're gonna adjust that again in a semi-accurate way using edge length visualization. Make sure that we have edge selection on, and then like we did before, we're going to move this until the distance, this distance and this distance is the same. Now hold shift to go with very small increments, 768, 768 on both sides. Do the same here, 768, I think it was, yes, yeah, okay. Okay, and now we have to create these inner frames in the same way that we've done before. So hit create a cube, turn off edge length visualization, scale the cube a little bit, make sure that you have edge face selection mode on, snapping turned on. Select this face and select that face. Then we want to create an inset again. For now I'm just gonna visually match it a little bit, so we don't have to measure again. Bridge faces. Select all and then to scale them. Then move them, turn off snapping, a little bit more to the back. Okay, go into edit mode and use the loop cut tool over here, and here, and here, and here. Select these edges. And then I will bevel these again. Again, I could measure these. .0137. with 0.0137. Okay. Then face select mode, bridge, 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 bridge. Okay, select all of it. Now using the shortcut Shift D, making sure edge snapping is on, Shift D, and I'm hitting Y on the keyboard to move it on the Y axis, Shift D, Y, Shift D, Y. Okay, so now this part is also finished, and only one part remaining, and that is this doorway. There's a bit of a challenge here because it's of course a diagonal element. It's probably 45-degree angle. So what does it look like? So architecturally they did something quite smart here. They created columns or posts that could accommodate both sides. So we also have to try to replicate that. And for that we need to modify our models. I now observe that this doesn't entirely match the plan. So what I will do is modify this slightly. So it's actually also not matching here entirely, but yeah, there's a difference also between the front view and the plan drawings. Basically, we're not gonna worry about that now, because if we want to modify that, we have to modify our entire window frame, and we don't want to do that. So we're just gonna concern us with modifying these sides. So how are we gonna do this? Well, first we're gonna have to make a cut from here to there in our post, and then use that face to extrude in that direction. The cut is made with the technique that we've used in a previous video, namely the Boolean modifier. So we add a cube, and we go into edit mode, make it a little bit smaller, then rotate it. We have to make sure that this side of the cube is aligned with this line from this to that corner. So I'm using the 3D cursor again. It's a transform pivot point for the rotation. I hit R on the keyboard for rotation. It's a bit faster than using the rotate tool. And then I'm picking the modifier and generate Boolean. And I use this. And let's see, I hope I select the right one, this cube. And then, oh, the cube isn't high enough, so I have to make sure that it cuts over the entire length. Just see if it worked out well. That looks good. What we can do now right away is go here and apply the Boolean. I could just move this to the helper objects, hide it. Then I can select this face and use the extrude tool, and then use the rotate tool to align it. So of course we don't know how accurate this drawing is. Probably not that accurate on this level, but this angle should of course be in a 45-degree angle, and we will later check if that is actually the case. But first we're gonna use the same technique to make a cut over here. So we'll add another cube, go into edit mode, modify its size, rotate it, and so I will move the 3D cursor over here and rotate it like so. Adjust the height of the cube, and then use the Boolean modifier hide it temporarily. I'll move it to helper objects. And this looks alright. So we will apply the boolean. Select this one and extrude it in that direction. Then we need to rotate it a little bit in the same way that we've done before. Vertex select mode to select this row of vertices. Turn off snapping. So how to make sure that we are on a 45-degree angle on both sides? We can add another cube to do that. Rotate it exactly 45 degrees. Minus 45. S to scale it a little bit. And then we can align this corner with that corner. And then we have to turn on vertex snapping. So we go into edit mode here, select this one, go to edge. So that one is on 45-degree angle. We're going to use this one over here as well. Vertex snapping mode, because we want to snap exactly to that corner on both X and Y. Okay, and then we will select this one and we switch to edge snapping because we want to snap to that edge. And well, we want this is, and then we move the cube to the helper objects. So as you can see, this one doesn't entirely align properly. So what we could do is select this face over here and use the local orientation. So now we can select this one. Wait, we move it over here. That means we will also have to modify this one a bit. Oh, turn off snapping. I'm just straightening this. There's still a slight discrepancy between this distance and that distance. We could change the cube a little bit that we use as a reference. And to move this face straight perpendicular to its orientation, we use normal transform orientation. We hide this one. So it's not perfect, as you can see. There's still some discrepancies between this and that side, but the source material also isn't perfect. At least these faces are properly aligned, and we can start modeling the doorway. We could in fact simply duplicate this doorway from over here. And if we're lucky, we could also just use that window. I use Shift D to duplicate this. Right mouse button, turn off snapping for now. And then I want to rotate this 45 degrees. So I'm using the rotate tool. And then I hit minus 45 degrees. Then I switch to local. I think I will align this side with that side. And then I'm gonna simply extend this in that direction, at least the doorway and the threshold. So what I will do is turn on X-ray again, select all the faces that are relevant on this side, and then move them to the side, snapping to the 45-degree angled face that we've just created. Yeah, with this window, when you want to modify the width of this window, it's better to create them from scratch. I will show you another quick and dirty way to modify the width of this window, but that also means that the dimensions of these elements change. And if you really want to model precisely, then this method is not a good one. But we can simply scale this window. That means we have to scale this window from here to there. That means that the origin of our transformation should be here, or the transform pivot point. So we're going to use the 3D cursor again to do that. So going to edit mode, select one of the faces to the side, doesn't matter which one. And then I go to mesh, snap cursor to selected. So the 3D cursor is now here. And then we can use the 3D cursor for the scaling. So when I'm now on the scale tool, like this, of course I want to exactly align this with that face. How do I do that? I need to turn on snapping. Edge snapping is fine, but also affect scaling. So when we now scale this, it properly aligns. So we have now quickly scaled up this window for reuse over here. So if you want, you can go into edit mode and modify the width of these rods so they're consistent with the dimensions of these rods that we use for all the other windows. But I mean, it's hardly observable in this case, so I won't worry too much about this. Then there's one thing remaining that we still have to model, and that is this lintel above the doorway. Because we've used the Boolean modifier to create basically a new face here and a new face over here, it interfered with the consistency of our mesh. So when I want to create a loop cut, for instance, it doesn't cross this side anymore, because this is now a face with more than 4 edges. That's because we have some extra geometry here. So this is a face that is covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 edges. And that means the loop cut tool won't work on that anymore. So there are ways to resolve this, in fact. But we could also just go for the easy way and create a separate object for this lintel. Turn on the window and the door. Move the 3D cursor, Shift A, we create another cube, and we already know that it has a rotation on the Z of 45 degrees. So we create a 45 degrees angled cube, and then it's just a matter of moving everything in place. I will switch to the median point again, and yes, local orientation is good. Bottom side. Oh yeah. This one should be until here. Yeah. So finally we're there. This turned into quite a long video, but I hope that the approach discussed here and the techniques that are demonstrated will help in your own architecture modeling projects. Hope to see you in one of the next videos.